the problem at the moment is that we've got this government who are lying, not telling the truth, and who are just evading liability, like Rachel Reeves MP with her illegal adverts, and Nigel Farage on GB News illegally and so forth, Jacob Rees-Mogg. And then you've got all the way we're being treated unlawfully when we've got us petitioning rights and so forth. And then, all the illegal things that Tony Blair's done with the congestion charge and, Queen Elizabeth repealing Magna Carta when they're still using it to open Parliament with various other things, and also setting the judges against their oaths. Basically mistakes, but they're also just lying and evading liability. Now, the problem is, this government are going on about this misinformation. They want to try and curb misinformation. Now, the situation that we're in at the moment is this. There is a lot of absolute tosh going around, and the problem is that the government are trying to make out that they are honest and telling the truth, and then this other party, this other side, is talking tosh. The problem is that the government are making huge, massive mistakes and also are not honest and legitimate and are evading consequences of their illegal actions. But at the same time, you've got this verbs and also this love party, right? When Verb's channel started off, I think he was kind of like, they're all kind of, what's happening, what's going on. This kind of like what they call the awakening, which is true because people are waking up to a lot of real things that are wrong with the world. A lot of sinister things, like all the food effects on us and making loads of money out of the food and all the health effects and so forth. But the thing is, we have got a lot of people who literally don't really know what they're talking about and are talking tosh. They don't talk all tosh, but some of it is tosh. Some of it is correct and true. Now, when they're getting onto all this Magna Carta business and trial by jury, some of it they're right about and it's correct. And we do really supposed to have a right to a trial by our jury and peers through Magna Carta. And they stole that from us by taking it out of the magistrates' court and having to appeal for the right for that higher up. And also they took it out of the county courts as well, which made businesses and companies basically not answerable to the public. And particularly for things like, planning and building, they gave all the powers to the council, to the councillors, rather than the public deciding what should and shouldn't be built and things like that. So we have been having lots of powers taken away. But when these people, they've got this Dave guy on here now, and I guess he's in this same circle. You've got all these kind of like different groups. You've got your Extinction Rebellion and you Just Stop Oil, who are doing their thing. And then you've got like, Double Down News and Unheard and Big Brother Watch, and you've got Double Down News. You've also got Matt Kennard and Jeremy Corbyn and that Crispin Flintoff guy and people like that who are sort of in this media kind of circle. I suppose you could put Julian Assange in that as well, and then you've got this kind of circle of people around that have all kind of started to kind of group together. I suppose Colchester Council Watch is sort of like on the fringe of that, although they're a little bit more concentrated on the council chamber, but they have a little bit of interest in this. Mainly verbs, and then this love party as well, and all the people who are going on it. And some of them are all on their own journeys and specialising in certain things. But they've all got this thing to do with free man of the land. And as soon as I hear him mention this free man of the land, I just switch off and go, doo. And then they also go on about this legal and lawful, which it is tosh. It's complete and utter tosh. I mean, this guy now has just been going on about, I don't drive, I travel, which maybe he's like talking in a legal sense, but in a way, it is absolute complete tosh what he's talking about, because drive is a word in a dictionary, not in law. The language of a country, language and dictionary isn't law. It doesn't come from law, and it doesn't come from legislation. So when he's making all these tosh arguments about what is legal and what is lawful and legal, I'm a free man of the land, and trial by jury, Magna Carta, he's talking in a sense of law, but at the end of the day, law is only a set of rules that is put through Parliament and passed, and then everyone consents to agree to them. Well, not everyone consents to agree to them, because some people break the law, but those are the rules. The thing is, the vocabulary, the dictionary, the language doesn't come from law. It's not enacted. There's no law. There are acts of law which say that in this act, this means this and this means that. But it doesn't mean that out of the act or in any other act always. It only means in purposes of the act. Now, the thing is, language comes from people, right? And there are different languages in different countries, but it's not the law. Language is not law. Comes from people, but is passed. So it's made into effect by the government or monarch in this country, right? But the language is not made by the monarch. The language is not invented by the monarch. In fact, language itself shifts and changes to do with fashions and styles and cultures and slang and variations, and you can study it, right? At universities, we learn about things, but all the things we've learned about aren't law. They're just knowledge. You have to make laws to govern the things that we're making and doing. But the things that we're making and doing aren't the law. And we need names for them so we know what they are and can do what we want with them, right? So what does drive mean? This guy says that driving only means that if you're in underemployment. If he's not under employment, he travels. Maybe he's talking in legal terms, but there is no legal terms. The dictionary tells you what the word drive means. If you go to France, right, you don't say that because they don't know what it means. You say it in French, right? And they might have various words, because like the word rouge, red, but you can have red, burgundy, whatever. There's no such. Drive is a word in a language that creatures use so that they can communicate with each other, so they know what they're talking about when they say something, right? It is not. It doesn't come from law. Law uses words so that when they make rules, you know what they're talking about, right? If you want to try and blag and come up with a lot of tosh to try and mess it up, then fair enough. That's the thing with the dictionary. The dictionary is merely communication. And then this guy's going on about he goes to answer questions. Well, sure, that is. I thought I'd becoming antisocial recently, but I don't answer questions. Well, what do you do when you have a conversation with someone at a dinner party? Don't talk to them. Well, no, I ask questions. I don't answer them. Well, that's a bit of a bad conversation, isn't it? What's your favourite colour? I don't answer questions. Well, you're the highlight of the party, aren't you? Yeah, Oh, where are you from? Don't ask me any questions. All right then, go get me a drink. That's not a question. It's an order. You know, go get me a pint. You know, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. Answer questions, right? Well, so I'll tell you. Go get me a pint. Then that's not a question. It's a command. You know, seriously, this guy's joke. I can't take him seriously, and unfortunately, when you go on these programs with people like Rachel, Eleanor Love, and Verbs, the thing with Verbs is, and the thing with all these channels in that group, with I suppose Colchester Council Watch kind of, but it's not as it's not as I don't think it's that tainted because that Damien guy on there is okay. That Damien Jones guy is all right. Who goes on there? But you're getting these kind of out there people who were so out there that they're kind of like gone. I think they're somehow latching around to the whole anonymous kind of like sort of thing, which is kind of anarchism in a way. But then again, Tony Blair's an anarchist. I don't know what's worse, Tony Blair and the government, or these kind of like freemen of the land, lawful versus legal people, because they're equally corrupt. Who's coming up with the most misinformation? Tony Blair or these people? This is the thing. I think they've met their match. So, I mean, the thing with Verbs is he has people on, right? And he has these guests on and they tell us about this and he asks questions about that. And, but he doesn't challenge them. This is the thing. There's no debate. There's no scrutiny. There's no like double checking. There's just like, I'm not too sure if that bit's right or not. Verbs comes on and he just has these people on and he just sucks it all up. And same with, Rachel Eleanor now, that she's soaking it up. This is the thing, you got to challenge people on things. There's things that you agree with, like, yeah, that's right. And then there's things that they're like, no, that's wrong. You're talking tosh. And this is the thing with Tony Blair and Keir Starmer. There's things they're doing in the government that they can do and that are right, but then there's things that they're doing wrong, like Rachel Reeves, and just because she's post office lady, she's not getting pulled on it. I'm pulling her on it because she's doing illegal adverts on a channel. And Nigel Farage, I mean, Farage, I don't mind Farage. He's got some good policies and, we probably have a lot better ideas about this country than what the Labour Party or Conservatives do. But I don't support Farage and everything, and I don't think that he would be in Parliament if it wasn't for GB News. This is the thing. And, what can we do about it? Well, there's no point in the government starting to try and dictate to us what we can and can't say when it itself is breaking the law and not following the rules, privileges or not. And this is the thing, it's not about freedom. This is the thing. This woman in Germany, right, or whatever she is, that woman in the World Economic Forum who's saying, yes, we have to ban all this bad freedom of speech because it's misinformation and so forth, right? But she's in the camp like Blair. They are breaking the law as much in the rules, as much as the people that they want to silence and show up. They're both as bad. Now, what is the solution to it? Well, the solution to it is actually discussion and debate. But the problem with, like, Verb's channel, for example, is that he's not debating with his guests. He's just coming them on and, well, we'll just listen to what they got to say and whatever. It's all right having them on and having to listen to what they say and so forth. But I've started to realise now that they're so unchallenged that they're just all soaking it up and taking it all in. And now Verbs is like, doop, he's gone. I mean, there's a lot of good and positive and correct stuff on there, but it's absorbed so much tosh. But not for the reason of free speech, for the reason that it's unchallenged. You got to be able to. This is why people aren't winning court cases, because they're not having the right arguments and they're not having the right challenges. It's lack of challenge, and this is the thing with these MPs and Starmer. You got to challenge them, and Rachel Reeves and Nigel Farage, and this is the thing. You got to challenge people on your own side. And this is the thing with like Extinction Rebellion or whatever. They just want people to come along, soak up the material, pick their banners and flyers up, and join the team, right? They don't want to be challenged. Like you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, and so forth. This is the problem. So it's the answer, and that's why we've got meant to have freedom of speech and debate, so you can argue it. So you can argue what's true from fact and say your opinion and point. And the thing is, if this guy still believes in what he says, right, and he still thinks he's right, as long as I can say what I think and say, look, you're talking tosh, right? The word drive means what it means in the language of the human beings who came up with it, and in our vocabulary and dictionary of words and meaning, and the law takes it from that. Because the law doesn't make up the language, right? This is the thing. So, it's if you get to say what you want, I'll tell him that he's talking tosh. He's talking absolute tosh. Some of the Magna Carta stuff's right, but as soon as he starts talking about this, I mean, I know, when this Rob the Ratcatcher and some of the other characters like this guy are contacting, the courts and judicial conduct, the courts and judicial conducts, eyeballs are rolling back in the back of the head, and they're like, like the woman on Total Recall when she's like, 2 weeks, and she can't take it and just can't handle it, right? Because there is a lot of absolute complete tosh, right? But this is the thing. When I contact Judicial Conduct Investigation Office, I'm not talking tosh, and this is the thing. And if they want, if someone wants to debate it with you, fair enough. But the government, we need to get a grip, because with the government, Tony Blair, Starmer, right, are breaking the law at the moment, and they're evading the truth and fact, and they've made a lot of errors and mistakes. Now, if they're going to continue to do that and not completely come clean, then there's no point in them trying to ban free speech and stopping loonballs like this guy from going on about freemen of the land and legal versus lawful, right? And what the word drive means, because, a lot of it is tosh as well. But neither these people or the government are completely right. Some of it is right and some of it is wrong. And what we need to do is have a debate so we can get to the bottom of it. You've got to argue it out. And I know people don't like arguing, but this is the thing. If you don't argue it out, then they're going to be wrong. You don't prove, you don't get to the truth, right, by stopping people from talking and being wrong, because otherwise a kid can't go to school and learn. He learns nothing because he's not allowed to make mistakes, right? If you're not allowed to try at school, you won't succeed or fail. Now, if there is no failure, then you wouldn't need to learn, because you would be right every time. And what the government want to do is they kind of like, it's not learning, it's like they want to dictate. Now, you might say that, maybe I'm dictating now, but what I'm doing is I listen to a people, right? And then I respond and tell them where I think they're wrong and where I think they're right, and then they're welcome to come back and say, how and in what manner and way and reason they disagree with me, and then I'll tell them, and that's the thing. So, but this woman in Germany, for example, she just doesn't want anyone to be allowed to argue over it. Or, oh, we don't like arguments. Well, that's life. You know, scientists are arguing over the reality of molecules and atoms. Still, they're actually not to agreement, and these are meant to be highly intelligent people. They've all got different models of what reality is based on. They haven't come to an agreement yet. They're meant to be the most intelligent people on the face of planet Earth. And this is the thing. People like that World Economic Forum woman, they don't really understand simplicity, common truths of you can't just have a baby that stands up and can walk, right? Some animals can. Humans actually are less able to. Babies need teaching, right? They can't just stand up and walk. So unless it's got to learn how to do it, right? But it copies people, but it also has to make its own discoveries and so forth. Now, that woman from WEF might say, well, we're going to teach you, and we're going to load it on, but we're going to teach you what we want you to learn and so forth. This is the thing. No one learns to walk without falling over and tripping and making mistakes, right? And you gradually get better and better at it. And when people are learning things, they got to make mistakes. I haven't stopped any of these people from being on there, but what frustrates me is that you can't speak to them. You can't actually, we're all being beckoned into this kind of like online digital world of being filmed and videoed. And I don't really want to get into that because it's part of the surveillance state model, it actually, everyone is, all the people on this kind of like Neil Oliver sort of verbs, Tucker Carlson, RFK Jr. side claims that, we need freedom of speech and we're fighting against this oppression and so forth and censorship, but also surveillance state. But the concept of YouTube, the idea of YouTube is surveillance state, and all the TV shows and models and being filmed and so forth is part of it, because it's the ideology of being filmed as a way of life and lifestyle and way to do things rather than just going about life in your community, which they say they don't want to do. But by the time, you don't have a community when everyone's glued to screens. Well, they've got their own community because they're flying around on jets and having these lavish sit down and talk shows that everyone is listening to, like Minions. That's part of the surveillance state model, because it's being watched, isn't it? It's been having an audience, having a massive audience. Why do you need an audience? I don't really want an audience, but when these people are going wrong, I want to put them right. But then I guess that's what the government want to do. The government think everyone else has been wrong, but they want to put them right. But the government are wrong themselves, and we need to put the government right. So it really is a standoff, because none of the parties are completely getting it totally right, and each one wants the other one to concede. So I can't see, unless if the government wants to lead and people to follow it, it needs to follow its own rules and lead with its integrity. And I don't think that the government is capable of doing that yet, because look how many prime ministers we've been through. We've been through 5 prime ministers. They've had 12 months, 2 years, um, and it looks like it, because they are not perfect. They made mistakes. They've made mistakes, and they don't want to admit when they're wrong. You know, and if they continue to lead with that example, then other people are going to copy that, and they are going to continue with mistakes, and not be accountable for when they've done anything wrong. So we're going to go through a lot of prime ministers and a lot of MPs, until the government learns and finally it corrects itself and starts having those persons accountable when they're breaking the rules. And then it will be in a position to tell other people what they should and shouldn't be doing, once it is not making huge, massive mistakes and failing to admit when it's wrong. I think that's that's a starting point for sure. Um, but it's some of the stuff these people are coming out with is true, and they're right about it. But there's also a lot of tosh as well. So it's to be debated.